Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and earlier today, Blizzard pushed a large blue post specifically to Warlocks, I guess in reference to PTR, the build coming up this week. And this post contains changes to Destruction, good changes to Destro, good changes to AF, and some pretty big changes to Demonology, following up the change they talked about last week with the removal of Third Dog and Demonic Knowledge, all that. So this video tonight, we'll be reviewing all that and looking at it very briefly on PTR. Like usual, week awards, add-ons, and profiles, links down below to Twitch and Discord, all for free for you guys. Twitter, Instagram, links up here for social media stuff you want to support there, or Patreon, like support there as well, which I greatly appreciate. And yeah, let's get right into it. Now, I was planning on making a video today actually looking at damage profiles of the new AF, Doom Blossom changes, and all that kind of stuff, as well as demo changes on PTR, but this afternoon, this was all pushed. These changes are coming in a future PTR build, one likely, hopefully on Tuesday or more likely Wednesday of next week. However, we're going to review all the changes today and I guess prep for them. So there are two changes for AF. Now, number one, unstable affliction damage increased by 10%. Now, this may seem like a buff, but it's not necessarily. So Xavius's Gambit is 15% and 30% at rank 1 and 2. Malefic Affliction on retail, which is still around, it's gone on PTR, which we are on right now. This is PTR. Malefic Affliction is, I believe, 18.5 or 19.5 and then 39%. Whatever. It's 39% at rank 2 out of 2. So you're losing about a 9% damage increase to UA with Xavius's Gambit. However, this buff to UA should indeed offset the loss of MA and the, I guess, transfer of UA damage between Xavius's Gambit and MA. Now, on top of that, they also made one large change for Seed of Corruption. We've asked about this for asked for this for a long time. Talked about it in beta of Dragonflight and everything else. They've reduced Seed of Corruption's cast time to 2 seconds, was 2.5. Currently, for me, it's 1.9 due to hasted effects and things right now. So you're looking at, I don't know, 1.7, 1.6% cast time, depending on where it lands and things. And honestly, Seed's cast time has felt pretty slow for a long time. And it felt better when we were in Shadowlands, because you had Decaying Soul Satchel, Field of Blossoms, all your legendary effects that amplified haste and things. So when we lost those, things started to feel a lot worse. But thankfully, we're essentially gaining that back. Now, that coupled with the fact that Affliction's also getting big buffs to Doom Blossom, making it a stronger force in AoE, this cast time reduction is making Affliction's AoE even better. Right, it's more quality of life. Affliction's got a lot of big quality of life changes over the past few days. Once again, Dread Touch. Hey, you put up UA and Rapture once, it's rolling. There's no MA stacking anymore. One UA is up. You want a UA and then Rapture. There's Dread Touch. Well, it should be. I'm not expecting to do it. I'm stupid, but I mean, either way, Dread Touch would be up at that point. If you move your UA to another mob, you Rapture once, Dread Touch is up on that mob too. It really is just super fun to play with. It makes target swapping so much easier now. And now with the actual seed change and plus, your seeds are cast faster. You can AoE faster. That attempt to make AF's ramp up time in single target feels like they've also looked at it a bit in AoE because seed time is faster now, which feels great. And here's the UA into Rapture with Dread Touch. I'm not lying. So there you go. Move UA over here. Even Rapture again, you can maintain 2 Dread Touches sort of. Maybe a little bit, but there you go. So like I'm saying, it works. So AF, once again, large quality of life changes again. Awesome to see. I'm excited for it, and all of the above. Now, moving on to Demonology. Demo got some changes too, and this is going to be probably like the bulk of the actual video, but it's certainly worth talking about if I can leave combat here. So, Demonology. Demo changes are interesting. They have sort of backtracked a bit on the Demonic Knowledge being removed from Demonology, which I think is a great thing to do. Now, I'll say off the bat, we still are missing our Third Dog. It's not here. It is gone. They actually addressed why Third Dog is gone in this post, which we'll get to in a minute here. And I understand where they're coming from. I assume that's probably the case, and it looks to be. But let's get into it first here. So, Shadowflame Acolyte. This, once again, we're on PTR here, but this is not this version. This is coming out in a few days. This talent here has been removed. Fel Covenant. For those that don't like Fel Covenant, it has also been removed, thankfully. No longer are you stacking this buff to 4. If you die or move around and it falls, you're punished. Fel Covenant is gone. Shadowflame Acolyte is gone. Demonic Knowledge has been re-added and is now located where Shadowflame Acolyte was. So Demonic Knowledge, your 15% chance to generate a Hand of Gul'dan whenever you cast, or generate a core stack whenever you cast Hand of Gul'dan. That is back in the same spot, which is great. Very good for Demonology. To a similar extent, Demonic Knowledge now more reliably procs at a 15% chance. I'm not sure what this means. I assume there's some, like, maybe bad luck protection built in. If it just goes for a while without proccing, they'll give you it like increases internally. I really don't know. I'm not sure. Have to see where it goes. They didn't really clarify, but it sounds good. I don't know. Shadow's Bite is also back. It is going to be replacing Fell Covenant. They basically just swap these 2 points back. Shadow's Bite, I mean, it's sort of a bland trait. It just increases demon bolt damage when you cast dogs, whenever they expire. It's fine. If you're playing like a single target build, you play like this row here, basically, instead of going through here for Implosion. It's whatever. I don't know. Comes back, I guess. Sure. Now, they've also gone to mention that they're buffing a handful of abilities here. Hand of Gul'dan, Implosion, Dreadstalker damage, and Demon Bolt damage. Now, Hand of Gul'dan damage being increased by 25%. Interesting. In single target, this is our kill of Magmarax last night. In single target, the effect is... it's about 2.7% roughly, so you're probably looking at like 3.1, 3.2% overall, likely jumping to about here-ish. Not a huge increase, but it will help a bit with sustain damage, right? Which is what they're focusing on, are sustain outside of our huge peaks and valleys with Nether Portal and things, right? So you have that. You have Implosion being buffed by 15%, which is interesting, because losing third Dreadstalker, which we are indeed still losing, and this becoming 2 points just feels bad off the bat, up from 1, but losing third dog means you have less chances to reproc Carnivorous, which means less chances to reapply Houndmaster Stratagem, which is less Dread Lash, Dread Bite, AoE rechomps. I would assume they're trying to shift damage to Implosion for more of an AoE profile, like I guess having more value in that part of your AoE profile versus just casting dogs every once in a while. Demo's AoE feels pretty lacking. So I mean, this is just, I guess, something, but I don't think it's really gonna do a whole lot to increase Demo AoE damage, because it's, I mean, we're losing our third dog, and that's also pretty impactful. So it could be a shift to like just trying to make different damage, like I guess events or things, different damage sources more impactful. We'll see where it goes. I'll take it, but it might need a bit more. To a similar extent, they buff dogs by 15%. This likely won't equal what we have now with 3 dogs, but it's something. Demon Bolt increased by 20%, which is once again more sustained damage outside of cooldowns, or outside of like Portal and Pit and Ray of Tyranny, all kind of stuff, right? Bolt being 4.3 is probably around 5.2, I guess, roughly. They do mention at the bottom here as well why they're changing dogs from 3 to 2. We'll get to that in a little while. So here as well, Bombers is now changing. It's going to be a 0 shard cost spell, which this sort of does also feel like they're leaning a bit more into sustained damage, right? Because Fellstorm, a large CD, good AoE, well, decent AoE, but a minute cooldown, no shard cost. Bombers cost 2 shards, mediocre damage, maybe a bit higher than it needs to be a little higher, but either way, it's a half-minute cooldown. So you have this cooldown essentially twice as much as you have demonic strength, right? Now they might need to buff damage a bit here on Bombers depending where it lands, and it is a ground placed effect like Guillotine is comparatively to strength, just being a big, hey, around my Felguard, AoE everything down. But I will say, once again, Demo Sustain is in a bit of an odd spot, and I mean, I think it's more single target based sort of, but at the same time, Bombers is sort of cool. If Bombers is worthwhile and worth playing, I'm down for it, but it might be hard to beat Demonic Strength when you have so many abilities like Antorin, like Heavy-Handed, like other, like this thing, everything that buffs your Felguard so much. So we'll see where it lands. If it ends up being better, that's awesome. It'll be fun to play with, but if not, at least it's a good quality of life increase. They've also changed Umbral Blaze. So they've buffed it, basically doubling the proc chance from 8 and 16 to 15 and 30. And they've also added a clause to it. Umbral Blaze now retains remaining damage when reapplied. So there are times, I'm not going to do it here because it's low proc chance, but there are times if you're playing Umbral Blaze for whatever reason, and you proc it, and it procs again before the first dot ends, which lasts 6 seconds, it would just refresh the dot. It wouldn't add damage onto it, it wouldn't extend, but now it will, I guess, essentially like sort of, I don't want to use the word snapshot, but it will like capture the remaining damage and add it onto the new Umbral Blaze. So it's actually pretty cool. It'll definitely be a buff for Umbral Blaze. It might need a damage buff too, but they're literally doubling the proc chance, which is actually pretty solid. 30% for every Hand of Gul'dan cast is actually pretty decent. And at the same time, we're retaining Demonic Knowledge, which means that you're going to be casting more Hand of Gul'dans and less Shadow Bolts, which is pretty cool. They've changed the 2-piece from Aberrus. They've increased Demon Bolt damage by 5% from 15 to 20. This is the same. Didn't change really at all. Probably just more throughput, sustainability attempt here, which is fine. And Dirty Hands has been renamed to Malefic Impact. I think Dirty Hands is cooler, but hey, same thing. Demonic Meteor is gone, though, in the tree here. And we'll get down to that in a minute here. So the big thing, we are also still retaining the old talents. I guess the old ones from a few days ago, which are fine. Dirty Hands is staying. Imperator is staying. Cavitation here is staying. Heavy-Handed is staying. We are losing Shadowflame Acolyte and Covenant being an old one. But we are retaining a lot of, once again, the pet-based, passive, sustainability, throughput talents that they mentioned they want to keep around to increase the most damage and not have this happen where you're doing 1 million DPS or 600k and then literal tank damage, right? So these changes, coupled with these changes, should indeed help in these points here when we are, basically below the tanks in damage. So we literally are below one of the tanks also. So there's that. Moving on to Destro here. So Destro, I am excited for Destro stuff. Destro looks really fun. It has 2 changes today, but these changes are big. Off the bat, number 1, Crashing Chaos has been redesigned. Summon Infernal increases the damage of your next 8 Chaos Bolts by 50%. On top of that, or your next Rain of Fires by 70%. That's pretty insane. This is basically a mix of current Crashing Chaos, the Azerite trait Crashing Chaos, and Grimoire Supremacy that we had back in BFA, where you had Supremacy stacked. Each bolt would increase like the next bolt's damage, but this is a baseline universal 50% damage increase to Chaos Bolt or Rain of Fire increase, and it lasts 8 casts. And the big thing here, the really cool thing is that obviously they're addressing this part of the tree, which I wanted to talk about. Hopefully they address Infernal brand. I'll probably make a video next week talking about remaining feedback, but they're doing a great job here. Either way, the cool thing here is that you're no longer putting points into subpar talents when you have things like Madness and Chaos Incarnate, Embers and Burn, all that's over here to get to Grand Warlock's design. This really adds a lot of power, number 1, to your Clash Trinket as Destro, because 2-minute Destro stems with Clash Trinket are actually pretty close to this build here, not playing the Clash Trinket. They're not as good, but they're close-ish. But Clash Trinket's not good for Destro. It's a downgrade because you're holding it forever, 3 minutes, and your Infernal's not worth anything now. It doesn't do anything. With this change, Infernal does a lot of damage. Your Chaos Bolts do, but it brings a lot of damage with it, right? And having 8 bolts all being buffed by your Clash Trinket looks to be exceptionally strong. And having 2 points in a node like this means that, hey, Grand Warlock's design is exceptionally easy to access, right? Very, very cool to see. So 2 other questions here. They mentioned that Crashing Chaos has been redesigned. They didn't mention that it's 2 ranks here. I assume it's 2 talent points, same as this is. It's probably like 4 Chaos Bolts and 25%. And then, you know, same here, or 8 and then 50 at rank 1 and 2. But we'll see where that goes. Need to figure that out. The other thing here that I'm curious about, does it proc... Thank you for the sub. I'm offline, but thank you. I appreciate it. That's not getting edited out. But yeah, anyways, getting back to that. Thank you again. So does it proc from your 2-piece, 4-piece Ritual of Ruin, Avatar Destruction? Because looking back to S3, S4 of Shadowlands, if you think back to that tier set, if you were playing Reign of Chaos with that tier set, which are these talents here, whenever this Infernal procced, you would get Reign of Chaos. Thinking back to BFA, when you had Vision of Perfection, you had the random Infernal procs. When those Infernals procced, they would grant you Crashing Chaos stacks. I think it was a lesser amount of Crashing Chaos, and they grant you a lesser amount of Grimoire of Supremacy. Now, I don't think it's very likely that it does, but if that interaction is a thing, you're going to have a lot of Crashing Chaos value, because even looking at Clash Trinket, right? Clash Trinket says summoning your Infernal grants you this effect, but Blasphemies worked and counted as Infernals for a large portion of PTR testing when you had your Clash Trinket. So there's a distinct possibility, a good possibility, that Crashing Chaos could indeed possibly work with Ritual of Ruin and Avatar Destruction to a lesser extent, maybe giving 2 Chaos Bolt or 2 Crashing Chaos stacks comparatively to 8, obviously, maybe 1. We'll see where it goes, but it would be a really interesting interaction. On top of that, Dimensional Rift has been buffed by 15%. I ran a sim earlier, unsurprisingly, like to me at least. So Chaos Incarnate and Dimensional Rift are actually pretty close in sims. my current sim favors Chaos Incarnate by 2k DPS, but they're actually relatively close comparatively to everybody thinks. Rift is not terrible in general right now. It's not as good as this in sustain single target or sustain whatever. And in Cleave and AoE, this is obviously pretty far ahead. But on fights that are single target based or mostly single target based, you're moving a lot, this is not that far behind. A 15% buff should put it, I think, at like a 1500, or sorry, let me rephrase that. A 15% buff to this ability, I think, should increase its damage output, like DPS, by about 500. I could be wrong. That's really rough Florida math I did on stream. Not as good as Incarnate yet, but it's getting closer. And it's a spell you can cast in the move, if need be, as Destruction. Now, as far as Destro builds are concerned, people are going to ask about it. I'll talk about it more in a video coming up. But, I mean, looking at like single target stuff, if you're playing Crashing Chaos, number one, just 4 points spent here. So things get awkward, though, because there's a few different builds you can play. We played with this build on PTR a good bit, like beta of Dragonflight, right? So you get your full Ritual of Ruin, Avatar Destruction, you get Burned to Ashes, you get full Infernal with Crashing and Wilfrids, and you get Madness. But you're missing out on Diabolic Embers, and you don't have Chaos Incarnate, which guarantees, once again, full Mastery effect. Now that, I mean, we'll see where this goes. It'll be a sim thing, but you want Madness for sure, with how strong it is. You likely want Crashing with GWD if it ends up being worthwhile, which I hope it does, and Burn to Ashes is very strong in single target. Now, there is the option of pulling your Purple Infernal, pulling Avatar and going like this, or the option of pulling Chaos Incarnate and going like this with Embers, because Embers is deceptively strong for Destruction. It means it's easier to weave Madness Chaos Bolts by going, let's say 3.5 shards, going Chaos Bolt, Incinerate with a tick from Immolate coming in, back into a Chaos Bolt. Having the extra shard gen from Embers is actually really important for Destro. So there's a configuration of different builds you can play here. It's hard to say where you want to go. I mean, you could even just do this straight up and not even play this at all. And you have a big Infernal 2-minute window with overwhelming power, big Chaos Incarnate, Embers, all this. So we'll see where it goes. Very interesting. When it comes to AoE, like let's say we're playing Infernal and everything up here. Once again, this build we played on PTR a good bit. Alpha, or I guess beta and stuff as well, where you're just playing straight up big AoE. You've got huge Rain of Fire spam every 2 minutes with Infernal, GWD, and you've got this, your full 2-piece, 4-piece here, and Madness, right? Now you can also pull the Infernal and go into Chaos Incarnate if you want. I think likely you play this, but either way, there are options. Having 2-minute Infernal back, as long as it ends up being worthwhile in damage, is going to be so much fun. 2-minute Infernal and 3-minute Infernal Destro are just two totally different things, 2 different specs completely, and I'm really excited about it. I also want to very briefly hit on the blue post, I guess, elaboration here towards the bottom now that we're done looking at each spec here. Ripped from the portal, so third dog. Blizzard did clarify on this regarding Demonology. These adjustments are being made to compensate from Ripped from the portal not returning to the Demonology talent tree, which is third dog, right? We want talents to be competitive options against one another, and given the synergistic value of third dog, it's very difficult for us to adjust in a way that it becomes an option rather than the right choice, which, I mean, I do understand this. They aren't wrong. I mean, having a third dog means carnivorous procs basically 50% more often, which means you get this more often, which means you get this more often. And there's a lot of RNG behind that. It's sort of why Hounds of War, I would assume, was removed as well. Hounds of War, the talent that gave you a chance to reset dog cooldown, had to be undertuned by nature. If it was decent, if it was worth playing in sims, like even like on a like mid-tier sim, you would play it everywhere, because if it procced in the high end, you get multiple dogs and you're tyrant, and it's utterly insane, right? So like, it's unfortunate losing third dog. I love it too, but in the end, if you're giving back either Demonic Knowledge, being, you know, the Born of Blood trait here, or third dog, you take Demonic Knowledge. Demonic Knowledge makes Death or Demo flow so much better with random core procs coming in. The fluidity of the spec rotationally is so much better with Demonic Knowledge. Third dog does give a third core, and it's very cool thematically. I get it, all the above, but like in the end, having Demonic Knowledge around is more important, I think, than third dog, even though it's sad to say. They can tune around, you know, more damage without having third dog. So we'll see where it goes. Demonic cores as well. The removal of Demonic Knowledge, Demonic Meteor, and third dog was too much of a push in direction of reigning in Demonology's mobility, which we talked about. Demon Bolt's a cool spell that enables Demonology to be reactive. We don't want to create a drought of demonic cores, but at the same time, we don't want it to be the only generator you cast. By re-adding Demonic Knowledge, the cadence of demonic cores should be in a healthier place. totally agree. So Demonic Meteor is gone, which was somewhere in here. Demonic Meteor gave you a 5% chance per shard spent to generate them back, and it increased Hand of Golden damage a bit, which this does damage-wise. And third dog is gone. So you won't have as many refunds randomly from Demonic Meteor, and you won't have third core stack from dogs expiring. Once again, out of all those three, Demonic Knowledge, or Born of Blood, is like bread and butter, holds Demo together. Third dog was icing on the cake, even better, and Demonic Meteor also felt great. But Demonic Knowledge was like, this is a key part, this is a gear in Demonology, it needs to stay. The other two, they're awesome, they're very cool, they help, but like, if two of the three has to go and one is staying, you keep Demonic Knowledge around for Demonology, in my opinion. So thanks for watching, guys. That wraps it up. Hopefully you guys are excited about the changes. I guess excited as I am about the changes. I think they're pretty good overall. Like I mentioned, I mean, obviously having third dog around would be great, but I had assumed, based on what they said a little bit with the initial post about tuning and things being a bit of a headache, that likely was the case, and lo and behold, no, you know, it sort of is. Having Demonic Knowledge back is great. The Destro 2-minute Infernal Crushing Chaos Enabler thing is very, very cool. And don't sleep on Aff. Aff's gotten so many quality life increases in the past week or so, like in this next build. And Aff's legitimately almost seeming about the same for me as Demonology. Demo scales more with PI and things with Class Trinket, but Aff is very sustainable. There's no 800k peaks with Aff, but then Aff will sustain 100k roughly versus Demo doing 40k. So honestly, damage profile wise, they're very different, but Aff in a lot of settings is probably a little better. So we'll see where it goes, but overall, yeah, good changes. I'm happy, and I guess well, we'll see where it goes. So like always, weak course add-ons and profiles down below, links to Twitch and Discord will for free for you guys. I also want to give one huge shout out again for in the video, like always, on my patrons. We're all supporting on Patreon, guys. Thank you a million times. I really appreciate it. If you're looking at supporting on Patreon, should be linked up here as well as down below. And yeah, I think it's about that. It's funny that Warlock in 10.0 in Vault of the Incarnates was in a bit of an odd spot, but like progressively over the course of the expansion, Warlock has gotten, I feel like, thematically and even like enjoyment wise, better and better and better. Having 2-minute Infernal around, having just the demo changes coming in for like sustainability. Third dog going away sucks, but overall, like it's still, I think, a net gain here. And honestly, all the quality life changes that Aff's gotten shouldn't be slept on. Lock's definitely gaining a lot of value, and we're already pretty good this tier. So we'll see. I'd assume the patch is out in like a month and a half or so, and before we know it, guys, we're going to be in 10.2 PTR, and things are going to get even more insane. So thanks for watching. If you liked the video, hit the like and sub buttons below. It helps out a ton, and I'll catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.